Hello and welcome to the Larger Than Necessary First Player Talking podcast. This is episode 70. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
Hello.
Pawel.
Hello.
What? You're here?
I'm here.
Where the hell have you been?
I've been the hell to Japan, baby. And it was awesome.
You want to tell us about your Japan trip?
I think I've just summed it up.
Really?
Well, awesome it was.
Japan in a word.
Okay,
Awesome.
so if you handed that in as an essay, you would probably failed on that. So, bit more description.
Right, well, Japan is amazing and also splendid and terrific. It's brilliant. It's really good.
Okay. Did you want to, what kind of things did you get up to while you were?
I'm not sure if I've
In
used
Japan.
up all the synonyms I was looking for, but it's fine.
We're looking for you to apply critical theory to the to the situation.
Japan, yeah. Well, you go to Japan, you really want to do as much stuff as you can. In my case, it was eating, and more eating, and attempting not to die when my wife was traversing Japanese countryside in the mountains of Shikoku, driving like 50 miles above the speed limit.
I didn't realise your wife could drive.
Well, I cannot, and we did hire a car when we left Kyoto for our road trip.
So
Al's wife's the most ready to drive without a license, basically,
Right,
out of the two of them.
No, she's fully licensed internationally, and also, it was brilliant.
Can you get an international driving licence?
Of course. When you go to Japan, you have to actually get
Really?
an addendum to your British driving license. You have to get your international papers, otherwise you can't drive there.
But I did not know that this thing existed.
Well, me neither, but there was a lot of preparation before that trip, and when I say a lot, I essentially made a big folder with bookmarks and everything.
Yes, all right. You sent me a picture of this, I think.
Yes, I was very proud of that folder.
Yeah,
And
I want
it
to
actually came
put
in
this
handy.
up on like the Facebook and Twitter feed and stuff, just to show how ridiculously organised this trip was, in that kind of "we're going to have a good time" kind of way.
It's less about having a good time because we knew it would be good. It's more about if you're just booking Airbnb everywhere in a country that doesn't really speak English at all, you have to be able to find your way around. And having actual internet on your phone is not an easy thing in Japan. Trust me. 3 days before leaving the country, I was finally comfortable with actually installing proper SIM card on my phone. And previously it was just a matter of luck and maybe goodwill of a random helper, and then it would just die a couple of days later and it would be without internet again. And without internet, it's really difficult to navigate a foreign country or any other country.
But you did well because you put a lot of pictures up.
Lots of adventures.
You went to a lot of like temples and stuff, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, any place we go, we usually try to find very sort of historic buildings and immerse ourselves in history and culture, and then try to essentially find all the non-touristy places to eat in and get completely confused and confuse locals with our orders. And when you're in Japan, being a foreigner is really good fun because no matter what you do, you make mistakes.
Okay.
And you know what? It's fine. Everybody's having good fun.
Well, I'm the only person in the room, I think, that hasn't been to Japan. Dave, does this like line up with your experience at Japan? What Pawel's saying?
No, I drank a lot more in Japan, I suspect. See, when you were saying you were immersing yourselves in the culture, was that when you chose to dress up as a Japanese man? I noticed. on your Facebook.
Oh, we did.
when you went.
And very
Went James Bond.
Well, you did also go to the
twice.
Meiji Castle. Were you trying to recreate the various scenes from You Only Live Twice? Was that the whole reason for going?
the sole reason, yes. I think, in various little towns and historic districts of Japanese cities, you'll get attractions such as the ability to rent a kimono and, I don't know, have a photographer follow you up so that they can do a proper photo shoot. But we just went for the wigs and I think it was the costumes of the lord and lady, or princess, or whatever you call it, to get a photo shoot inside one of the castles, because you don't really want to see a gaijin walking about the streets having. Let me put it this way: during my trip, I had numerous people, school children, you name it, approach me just to take photos with me, and I was wearing normal clothes. If I would.
But just because you're tall and white.
No, I suppose just because you're foreign.
And really good looking.
I know. If I was wearing a kimono...
Sorry, lads. Sorry, I don't know what came
Just
over me.
derailing the whole thing now, Chris.
I know, we know it was brewing, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, Euan, you actually briefly lived in Japan for a bit, didn't you?
If you can call it living.
So does this also line up with what you...
I think so. I mean, the general sort of, in terms of, making horrific mistakes and generally just being laughed at for them, is tallies
Par
with
for
my
the course.
experience, yeah.
I mean, laughed at is obviously just one part of it, but loving it is the more important part.
Would you like to recount your drunken cycling tale, Euan, or will we leave
Well, all I'd say is that when I returned from a barbecue, I think it was, I don't know, I was very, very drunk. And when I came through the door into my host family's house, and the old matriarch of the family took one look at me, bleeding profusely from a cut in my head, which I'd sustained after going over my handlebars several times on my bike, and physically being restrained by a gaggle of old ladies from getting back on my bike. She just laughed, just took one look at me, and just...
Oh, you silly white man.
Yeah, you silly gaijin. And I sat down and I proceeded to speak some of the best Japanese I'd done the entire year, because I speak only good Japanese when I'm drunk.
Okay.
I do believe this is very different from my experience altogether.
But it's good, so that means that Japan has a lot to offer, depending on who you are.
It does, yeah, even if you're Scottish.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pawel. It's good to have you back, I think.
It's good to be back, and I am waiting to return to Japan shortly, hopefully.
What, to get away from us?
No, it's just when you come back to Scotland and you need to refill your fridge, you suddenly realise you have no appetite whatsoever for anything that's in local stores or restaurants.
Oh, have you been spoiled?
Yeah, he's been
with the
spoiled.
Japanese diet.
Get him.
I mean,
Well, it's all
we're
ramen
talking,
and sushi for
we're talking
you.
half a stone more, yes.
Bit of haggis isn't good enough for them anymore.
I'd imagine the Japanese would go for haggis.
Yeah, probably would. You should try and sell it to them.
I think
you
maybe
could probably get away with that.
Yeah. Japanese import-export haggis service.
Haggis gyoza. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You heard it here first.
Well, yeah, man, don't steal the idea.
Well, thanks, Pawel. Now, before we go any further, so this is a board games episode, before anybody is wondering, so we've now gone about 8 minutes without actually talking about any games. But before we go any further, we've got a couple of unboxing things to do as well.
All right, yeah.
So because Pawel's brought us some gifts, so let's start. All
right, so yeah,
we've got a capsule toy in the.
Pawel's had a Shenmue-style experience.
Yeah, he has. So
he's,
I'm going to open mine up, and I've got what looks like a crouching Zangief from the Street Fighter games. What you got?
Oh, he's
Euan?
doing his. Yeah, it is Zangief. I've also. What
We also
colour
got the same
Zangief have you
Zangief.
got?
Is it also crouching?
He
Who
has.
would have thought?
He's doing his signature
pile driver.
pile driver move. Yeah, he should be upside down.
There's
with
a
something
slight
in his...
chance that Dave might just have a Zangief
Do you think
crouching as well.
Oh well, it does.
Dave's having trouble getting in
There's a
his.
set here because this is from the Street Fighter 2. This is desktop Zangief.
I think
what it says?
Ryo Hazuki was
desktop.
better at opening these.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Why did you not get me this one with him pointing his fingers up in the air? That's the best. Did you even get these out of a capsule toy machine?
Yes, of course.
And the capsule toy machine had the same the same things in it.
Well,
Identical
that depends
things.
on what Dave's got. Do you have a crouching one as well?
No,
Pile driver, man.
I have spinning lariats.
There you go.
Oh, you've got spinning lariat.
Oh,
I
nice.
believe so.
This is totally unfair.
It's random, man.
Oh wait, hang
If
on
you
a
blend
minute.
Shenmue, it's random as well.
Random man.
There we go. That's 3 half-naked, hairy Russian wrestlers, all assembled.
Have they all got the same colour pants?
Yeah, I think they do. They're all kind of turquoise. So if you can just imagine, dear listener, that we're all holding Zangief toys from a Japanese capsule toy machine. This is the kind of people we are. Right, one final last unboxing thing. You know, it's December. I've not opened my advent calendar yet. Number 11. Let's have a look. Let's see what's behind this. This is a standard chocolate Dairy Milk cat.
So is it going to be...
It says, "Can you tell a Christmas joke?" And it has a picture of a gift box. So that's nice, isn't it? That's nice, Euan, isn't it?
Well,
And it's I think this is slightly melted. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I'm eating it.
He's eating it.
we've certainly succeeded
Well, that
in
was
making
exciting.
one of like sort of internet's current most tedious trends even more tedious.
Exactly.
By removing the visual element.
Remove the visual element.
Yeah.
Only make it audio.
It's our way of parodying it, I suppose.
So I think
gonna
I think
put-
maybe now we can start talking about some board
I'm
games.
just going to put desktop Zangief back in his egg.
Yeah, I'll leave mine out actually
Right.
as a little mascot. I'll put them over here. I mean, it's Christmas. We can enjoy ourselves while we're podcasting, eh?
I have to say, my Zangief is somewhat seasonal in that he does look a little bit like Jesus.
Oh yeah, yes, he's got the...
I don't know if you can see that, Chris, from here.
Let's have a look.
Oh my
Oh
god!
yeah, he's got
you notice
himself
the-
in the pose, hasn't he? He really does have himself
Very-
in that pose.
Especially if I put...
The well-known Jesus pose.
Yeah, we'll say no more about that. But, yep. That's nice. Thanks, Pawel.
Yeah, thanks, Pavel. That's some good gifts.
My pleasure. I'll get you more wrestlers from Japan in the future.
Excellent. So let's talk about board games then, because that's what we're actually here to do. So
If we must.
we yesterday decided to set aside a good day, good few hours of the day, me and yourself, Euan, and yourself, Dave, and accidentally ended up playing a whole bunch of Rio Grande games. So we'll start at the top then, because the first one we played, so they're all pretty older games. They're older games now. Even the most recent one that we've got there is a good few years old now. But there's one particular classic, The Princes of Florence, which we played, and we have played this game quite a few times now over the years. So it's one that we break out. I mean, it's a game that, and I'm pretty sure I said this yesterday, that is kind of standing the test of time. I think when it comes to board games, it still is very playable now.
Yeah.
So yeah, The Princes of Florence. In fact, Dave, this was your first time playing it, wasn't it?
It was, yes. I've not played it before.
But had you heard a lot about this game before, or
No.
you hadn't? Okay, well, what are your?
It's not as famous as you thought. Eh?
It's pretty famous, though.
Yeah.
It's pretty famous. Yeah, Dave, go on then. Tell us how this game works.
How it works?
Yeah.
It's definitely a Euro game, this one, isn't it? I would say it's very...
I think all these games that we played are Euro
It's
games.
a very Euro Sunday.
This is the most Euro of
Euro
the,
Euan Sunday.
of the three that we played, perhaps.
What are you doing to Jesus Zangief?
Sorry. I'll put Jesus Zangief down.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, so in this game you play a Prince of Florence.
Hooray.
Presumably during the Renaissance period, I think it's meant to be, and each of you has a board which represents your city, is it? Or it's kind of like a palace. and
Yeah.
its surrounding grounds.
Can't remember the word that they use for it, but yes, aye.
Palazzo.
Palazzo,
Yes.
that's the one.
Yes, and the object of the game is to recruit various artisans to your city, where they will perform great works of art, and you will gain points for doing so, and whoever gets the most points wins. And how does it work? I can't
Well, it's
remember.
the game's kind of it's split into sort of two phases. So you've got what you see. You've got your palazzo in front of you, and then there's a whole bunch of things on the table that you can basically buy.
The
But
auction phase is
yes,
the first one. Yes.
The auction phase is the first one. and there's 7 things that you can auction.
So yeah, that's right. Everyone gets an amount of florins because we're in Florence, presumably.
Yep.
And whoever's the first player to go, they choose one of these 7 things to bid on, and you start out at 300. And the 7 is it 200?
200.
Sorry, that was a 2. I was looking at the 2-player rules earlier. It's 300. That's my excuse. So you've got what have you got? You've got 3 types of sort of what would you call them? Landscape, civic works, park, lake, and forest. Yep. So you've got those, and those are like little tiles that you can lay onto your board. What else can you bid on? There's the
Jesters.
Chris loves a good jester.
I do love a jester.
Yeah, they give you points when your artisans build their works. They give you additional points for each jester. There's builders, which give you various bonuses when it comes to building buildings, which we'll come to later because that happens afterwards. Prestige cards.
Yep.
Sort of end of game bonuses basically give you prestige points.
Yeah,
the game, which are your victory points.
It's the victory
basically.
points,
yeah, they're like additional points for like for example, the person who has the most lakes. I had that one. That would give you additional points at the end.
You're basically buying yourself a little objective to work towards that you might not necessarily get.
Exactly, aye.
You could also. There was another one where you.
It's the recruitment cards.
Yeah, the recruitment card, which is slightly fiddly. But yeah, that's in it. Yeah. That allows you to steal an artisan from one of the other players. The significance of which will presumably become clearer later. Because in addition to your florins that you get at the start, you get a hand of 3. Is it?
Yes.
You start with
3 from 4 if you want to call it that. You get 4 and throw 1 away.
Yeah. So Pawel, if you hand me that. Yeah. So these are the professions, the artisans. There's all sorts of different things, like cartographer, choreographer, sculptor, and so on. In each of these people, they have 3 things that they like. They have a building, a particular building. They have a lake, park, or forest, and also a freedom. Were freedoms during the auction phase that you?
No, you bought them in
the
the action phase, but there's a limited amount of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you choose your thing to bid on. And then the person next to you can decide whether they want to bid on it or pass, and then it goes round to the next person. And each time it goes up by 100 florins. You're not allowed to just add an arbitrary amount on.
Yeah, the bidding's sort of quite controlled.
Yeah, and it goes round in a circle until I guess everybody's passed, and one person, whoever's bid the highest, gets that item. They put a little chip on it to indicate that it's theirs, and next person in the turn order, they decide what they're going to bid on. And the same process goes round. If you're the last person, you get something for 200.
Yeah.
Because there's no one left to bid against you.
Yeah, because you can't buy more than one thing in the auction round. So once you've bought something, that's you out of the auction round, basically.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I should have said that.
So everybody's going to get one thing.
Yes,
basically
from the auction thing. Yep. Mm-hmm. And the game's only 7 rounds long. I don't know if we actually mentioned that, but so you're only going to get like 7 of those auctionable things through the whole game.
And again, when you move on to the action phase, you've only got you're basically that's all the other things. So your freedoms, your buildings. What else is in there? Extra profession cards,
bonus cards.
Yeah. So the freedoms are quite the freedoms are quite interesting because there's 3 different things. There's freedom of travel, freedom of opinion, and freedom of religion. Again, these are things that are favoured by the various artisans. Each one will have one of these that he prefers.
Purchased, which is strange.
Yes, they're not bid on. They're purchased with your cash. They cost 300. Is it true that there's 1 fewer of each of these than the number of players?
We played a 3-player game, so there's only 2 of each type in the game. So it can be a case that somebody just misses out completely.
Yep, there can be a wee bit of a race for those. Of course, it's not compulsory to take them, but they are beneficial. You can also build, in the action phase, you can use one of your actions to build a building. Again, this is something that the artisans like, and you'll get additional points because of it. Now, once you've got a building, or indeed the forest, lake and park from the auction phase, whenever you gain those, you have to place them on your grid. Now, there's rules about how you're allowed to place them on the grid, because tile laying's a big part of this game. Yeah,
and there's a Tetris-y style thing going on here with the buildings.
Yes, because the buildings are all different sort of funny shapes, aren't they? And some are bigger than others in terms of the number of squares that they cover up in your grid. But none of the buildings are a simple shape. They've all got bits sticking out or little indentations. When they're placed on in the grounds of your next to your palace, they can't touch any of the other buildings. That's the sort of main rule for them. There has to be space in between the buildings, and well, there is an exception to that if you've got the third builder.
Is it
I think it's the second builder, actually.
Oh, so it is. Yes, it's easier. Yeah, but generally speaking, unless you've got the second builder, you have to leave gaps in between your buildings. So there's an element of planning there in terms of which buildings you're going to build. You can certainly leave yourself stuck such that you've not got the space that you need to build the buildings that you want to build for the artisans that you have.
Yeah.
You also have to place forests, lakes, and parks on the spaces on the grounds of around your palace. Those have simpler shapes. The lake is just like a square, isn't it? The forest is a wee bit has a wee bit sticking out. The park is like three.
Yes,
three in a line. Those can touch other things, so you would try and put those fit them in between your buildings. That's a good way to get everything laid out on your grid. And the other you mentioned bonus cards. We'll come back to them actually, because the other most important action in the way you score your points is to actually perform a work. And that's where the profession cards with the artisans come in. You can choose one of those, and they will perform a work, and then you gain points based on the things that you have that they like. So if you have the building that they are associated with, you'll get like 3 or 4 points for that. If you have the park or lake, then that's some more points. Jesters, 2 points.
2 points per jester.
Yep. An additional point for every profession, every artisan that you have out already.
Yeah.
And the bonus cards, which if you happen to have any bonus cards, and did they have prerequisites? You had to meet some sort of condition for the
usually
bonus
with the bonus cards it'll be like you would get an extra point on your work for
they're really similar to the prestige cards.
Yeah,
they've kind of got the same sort of things in them, because I had like ones that were like, if you've got however many parks, you add this much points onto the thing or whatever.
Yeah, so it's not quite prerequisites, but in order to get points from them, you need things like one for each.
But the thing is, like with all the cards, whenever you take cards in this game, you always get a good choice, because you always pick up 5 of them and then choose one. So you can always generally pick something that's gonna give you like a good amount of points when you're doing these things.
Yeah, that's right, because when you take an action, when you're getting like another artisan, say, you get 5 for the artisans as well.
Yeah,
to choose from. Yeah,
profession. Yeah.
So yeah, that is quite nice, because it does stop you getting stuck. Although that did kind of go against me a little bit, because I relied on that a bit too heavily when we played our game, made the assumption that I was going to get a good prestige card. Because you draw so many. I rather naively assumed that I'll just wait till later on in the game. And then I'll take one in like in the penultimate turn. I was like, right, I'll take one now, and I'll just, I'll get some more victory points. There's bound to be one here that matches what I have. None of them did.
But that's it. I mean, because you've kind of what you've explained there is basically the game, right? That's how the game works. But the thing about this game, I think, is that there's a lot of just like hedging your bets going on in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things about when you're playing your works, it's quite. There's an interesting mechanic there where you have your work value, and which is a completely different thing to prestige points.
Yeah.
And you have a marker for that on the track, so you can keep track of this, because you will get extra. It's 3 extra prestige points at the end for whoever puts on the best work.
Every round, yeah.
Every round. So if you're the only one that puts on, you're going to get extra points. If 2 people have like the same amount, which we had in one, we both get the points.
But the thing is, I think because there's a lot of different ways of getting points in this game.
Yeah.
And what I was sort of saying about the hedging your bets, was like Dave, you were saying like the profession cards, you waited too long or whatever to look at them, and then
the
they're
prestige
getting the wrong
ones.
But I mean, the thing, like, so I think having played this game once, if you go back and play it again, you'll have a much better idea, because you'll see that, like, you know, the bigger buildings, although they take up more space in your palazzo, they actually have more professions that use those buildings. So, like, early in the game, even though I lost horribly in this game, but I did take professions that we needed at university, because I was just like, well, if I can get there's more of those things in there that need a university, definitely. So I'll take the university guys and build a university early on, and then just see if I can get that out. And again, that was me trying to hedge my bets a bit. It didn't work out for me in the end, because I didn't get the university guys out. But there is a lot of that going on in this game, I think. And I think this is where they try and sort of offset it a little bit with the whole, you take 5 cards. Every time you take bonus cards, you take 5 and pick one. Profession cards, you take 5 and pick one. Prestige cards, you take 5 and pick one. Because you're always trying to just get the best thing that you can for what you've already got.
Well, the other thing as well, the kind of, I suppose the brinksmanship thing, where you when you play your work, you choose how much of that you're going to put into victory points.
Yes,
or
and
prestige points, and that is a big choice to make, because you basically you can take it as money, but for every 200 in money you're getting, you can turn that into one victory point.
Yep.
So you can start moving yourself ahead, and you kind of need to. Everybody wants to be doing that, but it's how much you do it. You don't want to bankrupt yourself.
Well, that's it, because you do have to get that balance right in this game, and it was one of the things that really it can be really difficult, and it can really depend on who you're playing against as well. Because if you're playing against people who are really aggressive in the auction round and just want to outbid everybody, like, you could end up spending so much money that you're not going to be scoring as many points as you normally would against people that are not going to do that. And some of that can go into the strategy as well, because you could end up just trying to push people's prices up and stuff like that when you're doing the auction round, because you know that they've spent so much of their money on points that you can, and you've got loads of money in front of you, you can guarantee that you're going to get something by, you know, just pushing prices high and all these kind of things. There's a lot of different things going on in this game, because the actual, like, the rules that you described, Dave, when it's just essentially it's an auction round and then you get a couple of actions, it sounds really simple, but there's just so many ways of getting points and things, because it's like there's other things you can do to get points, like you can build multiple copies of, like, forests or parks or lakes and stuff, and they'll start giving you extra points for doing that. Every time you build buildings, you can do that. There's a viable building strategy in this for, like, not really putting on that many works, but just building shitloads of buildings in your palazzo, because every time you do that, you're getting 3 points, and if you can squeeze them all, you can squeeze everything in there, if you get all the builders out and stuff, you can just end up racking up so many points by doing that. So yeah, number of different strategies, a lot of interesting things going on, and I really enjoy playing this game every time we play it, because I try something new every time. Like, my last strategy was the Jester strategy. Just, you know, I put on a work at the end of the game where I was missing 2 of the main things for it, but still managed to hit the minimum work value because I had 4 Jesters. So
Jester's got you through it. Yeah. It was an interesting one, because we were saying it ended up being quite close when we finished. I think there was only like 5 points in between the first and last player, which, like, generally when we played this, there's someone kind of generally barrels ahead on the points there. But we all tried different tactics and kind of.
Aye, we did. Yeah. We did try different tactics.
For me, it totally had that Euro feel of never having enough time to do what definitely. You want. It was so much like that. And also the minimum work value as well, because each turn that goes up, so it starts, you have to do, is it 12 to begin with? I think
it's 7.
Is it 7?
It's really low, it's 7.
And it goes up each of the turns up to the 7th turn, when it has to be whatever, 15 or 14, whatever it is. So in order to put on a work, it has to meet that minimum value, so it becomes increasingly difficult, and that's quite interesting, because that puts a kind of pressure on you, especially if you're doing the kind of strategy where you're trying to do a work every turn. It can be quite difficult to keep up with that minimum value. It's if you're doing the sort of, I'm going to build up a little bit and then do more works later, then it's easier to hit. hit that. But then
because
but
that was a strategy I kind of
Yeah,
tried, and it didn't really work out. I came last in the end, but
the game's kind of designed for you to do that to some extent. It's like a central, because the way that minimum value thing works, it's quite interesting, because you pretty much from the start you need to be getting all of the requirements for the card plus gestures to even hit that minimum.
Yeah.
And that's why each one you already have out gives you additional
the first turn
points.
the first turn, if you have a building and a park, lake, or whatever
you
it
can
is,
do it.
Yeah, I think you can just
but it
do
totally
it.
constrains what you do. If you're like, I'm going to do a work in the first turn, it's very much you have to get a building out, and you have to get like the lake or whatever as well.
I guess you need to be playing that as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, so I was doing that to begin with, but I was like, oh, I'm getting really constrained by this because I have to do these things all the time, and I'm not building the way that Chris is, where he's building up lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you get out works early, you might get that 3-point bonus. Especially when there was just 3 of us, there was less contest for the 3-point bonus than there might be with. How many players does it take? 5, yeah.
Be interested to see what it's like with 5.
I think we've done it with 5, but many years ago.
I assume it's quite different with 5 players. I don't know.
I think the auctions can get out of hand in the 5 players.
Plus,
people
we noticed that
fighting over jesters and builders, I think, was what I remember.
Well, you get quite a lot of money to start with. I wasn't troubled for money that
I quickly ran
game.
out of that.
Yeah, that's maybe.
But the thing is, I didn't put many works on in the first. I think I only put 1 work on in the first 2 or 3 turns.
It's interesting
because I mean, Dave, you had the experience I had when I first played this game, which was that you feel like you have to keep putting works on all the time.
Initially, yeah, and then I kind of stopped.
Yeah,
because I was like, I cannot sustain this because I'm just not able to get the things that I need, and I want to do these other things, so I'm going to have to like back off with that strategy. Because it would come to you only get 2 actions, and there's no way to get any more. So 2 isn't very much. You can only do 2 things, and one of those, if you're going to put on a work, that takes an action.
Yeah.
But it's good though. It means the game's quick as well. 7 turns, an auction, and 2 actions each, especially with 3 players. It flies by. I think especially once you know what you're doing.
This was one of the quicker games we played, actually, wasn't it? It was like an hour and a half or something.
I feel through it.
And we don't play the fastest.
No,
we're not the fastest players in the world
because I hadn't played it before. I was
taking
taking a while, but I definitely had that thing where after we played it, I was like, yeah, I'd like to play it again, and this is what I would maybe do differently.
Yeah.
Well, it's the kind of game I could see taking a long time, because it is. I mean, with the constraints that it places on you the whole way through the game, you are constantly faced with really difficult decisions about what you're going to do. I mean, you almost kind of have to have a game plan in place and kind of try and sort of do chain your moves to something, and it's really, really tighter than most Euro games I've ever played. But that makes it really interesting.
It is really well designed, considering it's one of the early Euro games. It's in that sort of came out that sort of same era as like Puerto Rico and Power Grid and all that sort of thing started to turn up. But like I say, it's not. I mean, it's aged really well. It has aged really well. It's still a very playable game. Pavel, you're very silent because you didn't play this game, but does this sound anything like something you would play?
It definitely sounds like something you guys like to play. No, but definitely. It's one of those games that have few, I suppose, fairly easily understandable rules, and a rich bunch of strategies to choose from. That's definitely admirable, and I'm sure in the past we've played a few games with this sort of quality, and I have enjoyed them quite a lot. Games where with every play you get to just try and experiment with different strategies, and you can see how well you're doing rather than start to count your points at during the last round, and suddenly someone maybe is winning and nobody knows why. Whereas in here, I understand every single action you take is essentially aimed at gathering points. I think I prefer games where you can do this, simply because otherwise, especially in games that I've not played before, I tend to take actions that don't necessarily, help me win, but rather I'm just moving in the general vicinity, trying to understand what's the game about and what I'm supposed to be doing, rather than actually supposed to be, winning. So, yeah.
Did you see the buildings, Pawel, in the box?
I did see the buildings in the box. Yes,
because I quite like that aspect. There's something fun about fitting little Tetris pieces together as well.
I don't fully understand how many buildings are you supposed to build during just 7
It just
turns?
depends. I mean, it's like you can. I think I only built 2 or 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's sort of board that every player gets with a grid next to the palazzo. That's tiny.
I mean, my palazzo was mostly empty, to be honest. I mean, the biggest building I had in it was a university, and then I think I might have only built 2.
It's not saying that
but
it's
they're just-
possible to.
It's possible to fill the entire thing with buildings, but that's the thing. This just depends on the strategy you pick. You can, like you say, there wasn't a lot of points between us all, and we all took sort of quite different strategies. And my palazzo was basically empty. It's like you've got this space, and you can, depending on your strategy, you'll find ways of filling it, or you won't. It just depends what you want to do. Right, we kind of need to move on a bit though. So, quick final round-up thoughts of Princes of Florence. Euan?
It's a good one. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you. Dave?
Yep. We'd play again.
Pawel, there's no point in asking.
Would play.
Pawel going to say?
Yeah.
You would play it
It's
if
still
you were
one-
on holiday in Florence.
It's still one of my favourite Euro games, especially considering how old it is. Yeah, I'm always up for playing it. So yes, that was Princes of Florence. Euan?
That's by Richard Ulrich and Wolfgang Kramer.
Well-known names.
Couple of
And it's a Rio Grande stroke Alea game.
or Regensburger Spielablauf.
Okay, moving on. So we're going to talk about a game that Euan owns, which is an unusual
One
thing.
of the few that I have sitting in your collection there. It's Attica, which is another Rio Grande classic.
Yep.
Quite an old game, this. Rio Grande with Hans im Glück, who made lots of quality German board games. This is a game about settling ancient Greece, is the general theme.
It's a very loose theme.
It's a very loose theme indeed. We'll get into why exactly, because this game's basically a sort of like a wee puzzle chain building game. You have a modular board with, depending on the number of players, the size of the board and how many shrines there are. So there'll be a shrine per player. They aren't necessarily your shrines that you can start your building wherever. But the idea is to win the game that you either connect up to the shrines using a chain of unbroken buildings of your own, or you place all of your buildings, and everybody's got 30, everybody's board's exactly the same. And the rounds are very simple as well. It's you either draw or you build, and if you draw 2 tiles from one of your basically all your building tiles will be shuffled in place in 4 stacks. You draw 2 building tiles, and you can either, if you've got the resources to place them on the board, you can place them straight away, or you put them onto your little game board, which has spaces for all of your buildings. And this figures in if you take the other option, which is building. In that you get 3 actions, and you build stuff from your board. And your player boards they're just all exactly the same basically, but they are nominally marked out as being various districts of ancient Greece. So you got Athens and Corinth and Sparta and Thebes.
But they're just for holding.
They are just
your
for holding
pieces,
these pieces,
that you've drawn but not built immediately. Well,
Yeah.
you get a handful at the start as well.
You'll start with a few on that board. I mean, there's a big thing of trying to sort of fill up that board and combo, getting things out, because you have the way the board also sort of explains these kind of, you've got groupings of things, so you'll have certain buildings, like you'll have a quarry, mine and fortress, is that it?
Quarry, fortress, and then two
quarry,
towers.
fortress and
So
2 towers.
They're grouped together.
So that's a group. You've got like a vineyard, vintners in a vineyard, silver mine in a mint, there's smaller ones, but they're quite costly to get out. And so there's 7 of these different groups, and when you complete, if you place all of the buildings in a particular group out onto the main player board, you'll get this little amphora thing, which gives you an extra action on whatever turn you take.
Yeah. It's like a carrot.
And it does look like a little. They do look like a little carrot, a little arrow, orange,
up to 7 carrots are available.
You can get up to 7 carrots, and you'll use them to give you extra goes on your building or drawing turns. And the other thing you can do when you take these actions is if you've decided you don't want to build any more stuff or you don't want to draw any more tiles, you can take landscape cards, which are basically the currency you use to place buildings. So you have to have matching ones.
They're like resources, like wood. What is it? It's like wood and stone and water. Because the way the resources work in this game is slightly unusual, because it's not just cards that you have. Because every building that you build has a resource requirement in order to build it. Yeah. And you do have some cards that you're given at the beginning of the game, but you've only got like 3. But there are also resources on the board.
Yeah, you can.
Because that's quite a weird one, because you can use the resources on the board as well.
Yeah. And like they're sort of showing them, if you put a building over one of them, that then covers it. So like the next person, they couldn't then use that. So any resources and hexes that are adjacent to where you're placing your building.
Yeah, it's that,
and the one you place it on.
It's that adjacency that's quite slightly unusual, in that you don't use them up, the resources that are on the board. You only use them up if you place your building on a hex that has that resource. But you can, like, say you want to build like a ship, and it requires 1 water and 1 stone, made up example. You can place it on a hex that has a water hex adjacent to it and a stone hex adjacent to it, and that's how you pay the costs for it.
Yeah.
But you can also supplement that with the cards in your hand. So
if one of those resources isn't on the board, you can play that one from your hand, or if you don't have that one yourself, you can play 2 cards of any other types to substitute for that.
Mitigate bad draws from the draw deck, and they'll get covered up as. So you have to use cards more and more as
the game goes on. Yeah, you're going to need more cards to play your buildings.
And you can only really draw cards if you've got unused actions, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes you might sacrifice building something just to get the resources so you can build, on a later turn. And the other thing as well is that within these groups that you have, there's kind of like an order of how things are built. So if you build, there's usually one sort of almost like a root building for each group.
Yeah, there's like prerequisite buildings. Like to go to the example you gave before, the quarry, fortress, and then the 2 towers. If you've built the quarry, you can place the fortress on the board as long as it's adjacent to the quarry for free, without paying any of the resource costs. And then the 2 towers could be placed adjacent to the fortress, again, for no resource costs. Yeah. So that's the other wee thing.
But I mean, like, that's the whole mechanics of how you actually get your things on the board, and that's essentially it. But the whole thing about this game is really that you're just constantly just trying to block each other. Yeah, it's essentially the thing, because
everybody's trying to connect up these shrines.
Yeah,
but everybody's trying to stop everyone else from connecting up the shrines.
If somebody connects up the shrines, they win. But also, if somebody gets all their tiles on the board, so they're out of tiles and they're all on the board, they win the game. And it's the whole connecting up the shrines thing is where the sort of conflict between the players comes in, because that's just like, you could just sit and everybody could just sit and say, well, I've got these resources and I can just put this thing in here and I'm just trying to empty my thing. But no, the whole conflict comes with stopping each other from connecting the shrines up across the board.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if everybody just goes for getting all their buildings out, which is quite a lot of games I've played, that ends up being how it happens. But that's because everybody's failed to. But you're trying to do that, connecting up the shrines in the first place, and you can increase the board size just when you exhaust certain things as you go on. Yeah, you get new tiles out, and you can use that sneakily. There is like a lot of the game is basically trying to exhaust the other player's ability to deal with you. Oh yeah. And also like tactically using, so the amphoras can be quite useful, because at a certain point, particularly if you've got a lot of things on your player map, and you take like a building action and you go up to 3, you keep adding amphoras, you can build loads of stuff. So if you've got it sort of set up right, and you've got the right resources, you can place quite a lot of buildings in one, because you can build quite a long chain.
And I think that's kind of the point, and I think that's probably why the any of the games that we've played, it's always been a case that somebody's got their buildings out. It's because nobody's really planned that far ahead, where they've gone, actually, if I sit and save up all these amphoras for the extra actions, and then get to a point where I can exhaust this deck, get this new tile out that'll make me get a sort of roundabout way to get into this shrine, and I can do all that in one go. Yeah. Using all these amphoras, and I think that's how you actually manage to get these shrine sort of victories in.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting game in that it uses probably. I'm not sure how you feel about this game, Chris, because it's probably the most symmetrical of player setups.
I don't mind that. I don't really. See, because I do like games that have asymmetric player powers, but. I mean, I see the beauty in both things, really. I just think that I like to make a point about the asymmetric things, because I know a lot of people don't like that.
Right.
But I do.
Well, in a more complex game.
I think it depends on the game, really. Yeah. I think it depends on the game, yeah.
But it is interesting just the way that it's the conflicts there, and everybody's got exactly the same opportunities. It's, the tactics are there, but pretty much anyone can counter you. So it provides an interesting experience. I guess that's what's given it its longevity, because it is such a simple game, and it's kind of in there with a lot of the Euro.
Well, the thing is, it's an abstract strategy game. This though,
yes, totally. It's pasted on theme, completely pasted on.
Yeah,
could be anything really.
There's not much. Well, it depends what you define Euro-y as, but
in fact, I'd say the theme's just ridiculous considering what it is. The theme's just stupid.
Yeah.
They could have easily done something much better with
certain aspects of it. Don't even really make sense. You're taking up a space for a ship.
It almost feels like they went, a Euro game. Well, it's going to have to be some sort of historical thing then, isn't it? It'll be ancient history or the Italian Renaissance.
Yeah, it's got to be one or the other. Or the colonial stuff's getting us in trouble.
Well, aye, there is that.
Yeah,
but we're going to have to cut this one short, I think, because we're going to have to leave some space for the next game.
Well, the next game's got a lot more to it.
It's got a lot more to it, but that is Attica. Thoughts on Attica, though, before we move on? Euan, it's your game.
I think it's a fun one to have in the collection. It's not too pricey a game. It's there's not a lot of massive parts to it or anything like that, and it plays quite quickly.
Yeah,
it's fairly simple. I think anyone can.
I would actually say I like the game. Don't get me wrong, but I actually think it's too long for what it is. It's just that wee bit too long for what it is.
Yeah.
I think so. I think they could have maybe cut this game a wee bit shorter. Maybe not put so many buildings in or something like that. But
it would have had to been something like that, I think, rather than any other aspect of it.
30 buildings is a lot, but yeah, I liked the balance in this game. The balance between placing the buildings on your board, so that you can have your prerequisites filled in.
Yeah.
And you can have the opportunity to pull off these big combos where you use your amphoras, because in order to do that you have to have buildings on your board that you're able to place in order to pull off that kind of combo, versus getting your stuff out early and making use of the resources that are on the board. Because if you sort of hold back with placing stuff, other people will be using up all the resources that are on the board. So I guess the idea is that those two are meant to balance each other out a wee bit. It's quite cool. I think it'd be good with two players as well.
It'd be interesting.
It would go quicker.
I think me and Euan have played it with two players, actually.
I
think me and you played it against each other.
The thing with 3 and 4 is because of the blocking aspect of it, it can get sometimes a wee bit unfair.
Yeah.
People can pick on one player or one player.
Yeah, that does happen, doesn't it?
And then another player can capitalise on that and win the game.
We'll just say that I lost this game.
Right. A moral victory, Chris. Moral victory.
Attica, Euan, what are the details?
It's Greek-tastic.
Details on Attica, Euan, you've written this all down, I think. I've left this up to you for this episode.
I'll give it 10 Dolmades out of 10. By Marcel André Casasola Merkel.
Good name.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to another game which is also by Handsome Gluck
Yes.
and Rio Grande. This is Stone Age, which is a... I mean, I keep thinking that this game's actually like a newer game, but it's not. I mean, it might be about 10 years old now, this game. I'm actually finding it hard to tell. Pavel, you're flicking through the stuff. Can you find a year on that rulebook or something?
You mean I can actually be useful?
Yeah, you can be useful for a change. So yeah, Stone Age, it's another Euro game.
2008.
2008, so yeah, I'm right, it's nearly 10 years old. It's another Euro game, and this is a worker placement Euro game, which is a classic Euro mechanic.
Of course.
But it's a kind of worker placement where it's kind of...
So you guys essentially just had a Euro playing day.
Yeah, we did.
We
I
certainly
mean,
did.
we discussed beforehand, like, Euan had kind of mentioned, let's just have a Euro day, and I was like, no, let's not do that. Let's not do that. And we ended up doing it. But
It's a secret anti-Brexit episode.
Euan got what he wanted.
Uh,
Euan loves a good Euro game.
oh, I do enjoy a Euro game.
So-
A whole evening of them.
So yeah, Stone Age. This is another one of these Euro games I actually really like. It's very dice based. Basically, in this game, we've all got a different sort of like tribe of Stone Age people. You start the game with 5 workers that you'll be placing in various spots on the board. The idea being that you're going to build up your little tribe by building buildings and collecting culture cards and doing various other things. And these things will give you victory points. Now, it's a game of sort of resource gathering and then spending those resources. It also has the you have to feed your people mechanic that, some people really dislike and other people think is fine. I think it's fine when it's used well, but there are some games where it's extremely frustrating. It's an extremely frustrating mechanic. But in this game, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's the one thing that gives you sort of a bit of tension.
It's not that difficult.
It's not that difficult in this game.
It's
no.
making the right choices to because as long as you're responsible with it,
Exactly.
that's fine. But
So just to give an overview, you've got a board. Everybody's got their own individual little civilization boards, which doesn't really serve that much of a purpose as far as I'm aware.
just gives you a bit of info.
Just gives you
and
some
holds
info,
things.
yeah.
They look nice.
They look nice. They do look nice. And there are various spaces on the board, and so some of those spaces there's one which is just a farm, which lets you increase your food production, basically, which helps you feed your people. There's one which is a tool maker space, which gives you a tool which will assist you with your dice rolls. And there's another which is it's the hut. It's the hut. We're calling it
The conjugal hut.
Yeah, the conjugal hut. Aye, it's basically where you send 2 of your people to, and they magically produce a third person.
A baby materialises.
Yeah. So that's how you get your extra workers. So you can have up to 10 workers. You start with 5. There are the other spaces. There are a big space where you can gather food.
Yep.
And there are 4 other areas where you can gather the 4 different types of resources, which are wood, stone, bricks, and gold. Now, there are sort of limits, so only one person can go in the farm space, only one person can go in the tool space, only one player can go in the conjugal hut space, but you can have multiple people in the resource gathering thing. And I actually think it looks quite cool when you've got these people in these spaces on the board. It looks pretty colourful. You've got your yellow, red, green and blue players, your standard board gaming colours, and it does actually look like a bunch of little Stone Age men that are sort of out hunting on this absolutely really nice artwork on the board.
Yeah, I like it. It's a very attractive.
It's a very
board
good white
for
board.
what it is.
So yeah, your hunting space has little guys painted that are out gathering and hunting stuff, and yeah, it does look very nice, this board. So yeah, when you've placed your guys out on the boards, when it comes to the resource gathering, there'll be... Actually, I should say that you kind of go around the table and place your guys one at a time. But if you place guys on a certain space, it's just like resource gathering, you can place as many of them as you want on there when it's your turn. So you could get to a point where... There's been a couple of turns in this game where it was like my turn and I put all of my men in the food gathering space, and that was my placement thing done. So it was only you 2 guys that then just took turns about placing guys. So yeah, you can place multiple people in one turn as long as you put them all in the same space. But once that's all done, you get to the sort of collection phase, really, whatever you want to call it, where you roll your dice, and you roll a number of dice depending on the number of people. So if you put 4 guys in the food space, you put 4 dice in this nice little cup, actually, thematic sort of cup. It's supposed to look like a sort of leather cup, I think.
It is leather. Well,
is it actually
leather? It is actual leather.
Is it?
I believe it's actual leather, yeah.
This is the game of the... I had to check this, but this is the game of the famous Stinky Cup.
Oh, right.
Well,
mine doesn't stink.
No, well, possibly only early editions had this issue. But
right.
Apparently it was a real...
really stinking cup.
Just had mentioned that. Because, I mean, there's no need for this cup to be in the game whatsoever.
No. It's just purely, a nice touch.
Yeah, it is nice.
It's just a dice cup. I mean, it's a leather dice cup. You put your dice in the cup, you roll them, and then depending on what it was that you're gathering, so if it was food, you divide what you rolled, you add up what you rolled and divide it by 2. If you were gathering wood, you divide it by 3. If it was brick, it's 4. Stone, it's 5. Gold, it's 6, because gold is hard to find. And then you get that many resources. And then you use these resources to build buildings, really. That's really what they're for. So the other action spaces at the bottom of the board are the buildings and the culture cards, or civil... Is it culture? Yeah, it's culture cards, isn't it? Now, the buildings... You can just... There are like stacks of buildings. The top building on each stack is face up. These are nice little thick tiles. And it tells you what resources you need to build that building. So it can be... You can say something like 2 gold and a wood, or something like that. And you will score points based on those resources. So the gold's always worth 6, and the stone's always worth 5, brick's always worth 4, the wood's always worth 3. So if you build a building that asks you for 2 gold and a wood, I can tell you right now that building's worth 15. But you get other buildings that'll say something like, you can use any 5 resources as long as there are at least 3 different types and stuff like that, and then you score the points depending on which resources you used. It's really just I mean, Dave, you made a point about this, didn't you?
Well, they're all the same. You're not like, I'm building a granary, it's not that kind of thing. You're basically converting the resources that you've gathered into points, PP, prestige points.
No, you're getting confused now. That's Princess of Florence.
Oh, it's Princess of Florence, the PP. What's
yes.
Yeah, of course it's prestige. What are we gathering in this?
These are storage points.
I don't know.
Well, they're little wheels.
It was little wheels,
they're
yeah.
little wheels.
It was the symbol for victory points was a little wheel.
Yeah, so you're converting your resources into wheels.
Yes.
And that's it, and it's a kind of timer mechanism, essentially.
That's it, yeah.
For the game, because when one of those stacks has been depleted, the game is over.
But there is another way ending the game as well, which is if the culture cards run out.
Well, that's true, yes.
Now, that didn't happen in our game, we just ran out of buildings in one of the stacks. But the culture cards are an interesting thing, because the culture cards are one of these things where they give you a one-off bonus straight away as soon as you get it. And there's 4 spaces for the culture cards, and it's one of these mechanics where the first card costs you 1 resource, the second card costs you 2 resources, and then 3 resources and 4 resources. And they're always face up, so you can see what it is that you're trying to buy. The top half of the card will have a one-off bonus that you'll get straight away, and that can just be something as simple as like a resource, like you can get like a stone or 2 gold or something like that. On the bottom half of the card is like a victory points at the end of the game thing. So it could say something on it like, well, it's nice little artwork. It doesn't actually have like numbers or anything on it. It could be like 2 times the number of people you have, or 1 times the number of farm points that you have, or tools that you have, or whatever. And you basically just save these culture cards up. You play through the game. I neglected them during this game, which meant I lost quite badly because I was just too busy stealing all the tools all the time.
Chris was
trying a different strategy.
All about the tools. And
yeah. And I didn't get... The thing is, the culture cards I was going for, I was sitting there waiting for more of the ones to come out that would give me bonus points for tools, and I didn't see a lot of them at all. I saw 1 and I got it, and that was it. But there's also something else at the bottom of these culture cards. Some of them just have a picture of some sort of cultural item, so it can be like a little statue or a loom, or a wheelbarrow, and there are 8 different things, and basically it's a set collection thing. So if you collect 5 of them, it's 5 times 5 that you would get 25 points at the end of the game. If you collect 8 of them, it's 8 times 8, 64, and you get bonus points for doublers. So if you get a double of one that you already have, that's an extra point. So yeah, those are just basically like I say, they're two different things: one-off bonus and points at the end of the game. The culture cards, and you should not neglect those cards. I'll tell you that right now, having done it through the whole game. You should not neglect those cards because those are basically what won the game for Dave, wasn't it? Dave ended up with a massive lead at the end.
Well, yeah, with the sort of multipliers, because I had two sets. I had multiplier for farming and multiplier for the number of workers I had. And I had 10 workers at the end, which definitely helped.
But the game gets a bit mathy, I think is the term.
Yeah, you could certainly play it that way, where you calculate the cost, the opportunity costs, and this is worth. One wood is worth so many points, and is it worth me spending this one wood to get this card, or 2 wood to get this card? I mean, you could.
The fact that they all give you some kind of endgame bonus, though, I mean, the more of those things you've got, I mean, the fact that me and you had like a proper stack of cards by the end of the game.
How many actual cards do you think he's had? I think I had 4 at the end of the game, 4 or 5.
I want to say I'm going to say 15.
Yeah, it'd be thereabouts.
Probably could have been more.
And that's why I lost, because I just neglected them.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it's not like I wouldn't go as far to say that was the only way to win.
No, not at
by
all.
collecting loads of cards. But I guess you probably can't neglect them altogether.
No.
Maybe.
But again, I mean, it's a dice-based game is another thing, and I think there was a couple of points in the game where I had like dedicated a whole bunch of guys to doing one thing, like collecting wood or collecting food or something like that. In fact, there was one time where I put, I think, 4 or 5 guys into the collecting food space, and they came back with very little food, which kind of ruined my plans for the next couple of turns, because you have to, let's say, at the end of every turn you have to feed your people, and is it 1 food per guy that you have. And I'd sent these guys away to get a load of food, thinking to myself, I'll get at least 3 turns worth of food out of these 4 or 5 guys I'm sending away, and I barely got 2 turns worth of food out of it, which meant that in another couple of turns' time I had to send people back for more food, and that's less people that you're dedicating to doing the actual useful stuff of gathering the resources that get you points in the end of the day. So,
yeah. Well, Dave, you went quite heavy on the farms, which reduce your food costs, so you were having to do a lot less. That probably helped to some extent, because you're not having to tie up so many of your guys going for food.
Yeah, that's true, because I had a few more guys, certainly, than Chris, perhaps, at any point in the game, but I also had more farming points, because Chris tended to go for the tools. But those kind of offset each other, because having the tools is kind of offsets having fewer guys, because you get to add the tool value onto your dice roll. And that can be very useful, because it's a kind of rounding thing in this game. So if you roll like a bunch of dice to go and get wood, it's every 5 rounded down. So having the tools there, that can give you the extra, even if it's just 1 or 2. Like I had tools that were just worth 1.
Yes.
But on occasion those were useful, because it was only 1 point I needed to get that extra resource. It's quite an odd wee mechanic, the sending multiple men to roll dice thing.
Yeah.
Because sending guys in groups is generally, on average, more efficient than spreading them out. Like, spreading them out can be a big mistake.
That's one of the things I have found in this game, is that you're much better to spend 1 turn gathering 1 resource and the next turn's gathering the other resource. You're much more likely to just get shitloads of resources doing that than you are to split them evenly both turns. Because, like you say, the rounding errors that come in,
across the game,
cause you problems.
Across the game, if you're always splitting your men across the length of the game, those rounding errors will count against you quite heavily. I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I spent a lot of time sending a lot of my workers for wood, because it's the cheapest, easiest resource to get, and you can just
you can
spend that on cards.
Yeah.
And that's like a really good sort of economy. But the more people play in the game, that becomes really difficult. You've only got 7 spaces. People start dominating the wood thing. I remember that being an issue in previous times we played this.
One of the last times we played it with our friend Neil, and he's all about the culture cards as well. And he very much would always just put all these guys in wood, except for the guys that were going for the culture cards.
Yeah.
And it's one of the it's one of the many strategies. So, in terms of like how fun this game is, I really enjoy the. It's good to see. I like to see. I like a wee bit of randomness in my games right now. I mean, I remember the first time I played Puerto Rico, which was one of the first sort of proper Euro games I played, and the limited amount of randomness in that game blew my mind. In terms of how is this a playable game with very little randomness, but it somehow works. Because it's the players themselves that are causing the different things to happen. Whereas in this, it's very heavy on the dice. In terms of like determining what you can and can't do in future turns with your resources and stuff, and I kind of like that in a sort of Euro style game. I think it adds a bit of you can't just make a solid strategy and stick to it. Sometimes you're just going to have to go, oh well, I've not got enough resources to get this building, so maybe I'll just go for culture cards instead. What do you think, Euan?
No, I'd probably agree with you. I mean, just thinking about, like, we're talking about Attica there being a paced-on theme, this is probably one of the most, like, strong sort of thematic games, I would say. Just because it does seem... It gives you this idea of the tensions of trying to run, like, a settlement like that, where, you've got all these different things. And, like you say, am I going to... Yeah, like, I need this resource. I need this one. What am I going to wait? Where's putting the most men in? And that random element really sort of brings that home and actually gives it that a genuine tension over what are you going to get out of this? Is your strategy going to work? And you have to constantly adapt.
Well, when you're saying about the theme, it's like there was a couple of times during the game where I was like, I sent a couple of guys off to get food or something like that, just in the hope that they would get it, and it's like, oh no, they've come back empty-handed. And you're just like, well, that happens in the Stone Age.
Well, I was reading just because actually on the side of the box, I hadn't noticed this on any, but there's we'll get his name in now, the Michael Tummelhofer, the creator of this game, is a sociologist and lecturer. And it does seem like he's someone who probably understood. He's like, oh yeah, this is what these sort of games should be about. Right, it should be exploring the dynamics of, and the fact that he's actually done that quite successfully within the Euro game setup is quite impressive. Because not a lot of them quite capture that, I don't think.
Yeah, I like that it's not too heavy. This game.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the sort of person who's played Agricola and just doesn't like it.
Is that you, Dave?
Well, possibly. Sometimes, no, I do kind of... I've not played Agricola enough to form a solid opinion on it, because it's the kind of game that you can't form an opinion on it if you've only played it a couple of times, I think, because it's flipping difficult. And yeah, sometimes if you're playing a game like Agricola, it's just like there's just so much in it that it's maybe not as much fun as it could be for certain people, and this game is not like that.
Yeah,
it's very straightforward to play. You're not having to think too much about, each time your turn comes around to place your man, it's not like massive decisions that you're having to make it, because the number of options available to you is relatively small. So you've got your cards, you've got your spaces that you can go gathering on, and you've got the three sort of engine-y building type things to choose from. So there's depth there, but it doesn't make your head hurt.
Yeah,
I would say, and that's good. That's definitely a positive. I mean, you could play this with people who would never, who would never go near something like Yokohama, say, that we talked about a while back.
That's quite heavy Euro game. But we put Pawel through his paces there.
Yeah, well, Pawel ended up a big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you would like this game as much. Maybe it's thematically possibly a little bit too abstract. Although it is there, I
definitely feel that the theme is
the previous
strong
one.
there. I mean, it is. I guess because I'm used to playing more Euro games, I can see how the theme works, right, without it feeling too abstract, because you know what they're getting at. But
I think you're biased, to be honest.
I just like it.
I think you just like a Euro game and you're trying to stick up for them.
I'm acknowledging the limitations of the medium.
Pawel.
Hello,
so Dave's tried to put words in your mouth there.
Oh, sorry, Pawel.
Do you think this is a game you might like then?
I'm
Again,
sure,
not
sure
being a big Euro fan.
it looks rather pretty. The cap doesn't smell too bad. And it does seem to have a decent amount of mathematics in it with all the multipliers and divisions and rounding up. So that would be good fun, I'm sure.
We get that bit of audio and
That's the
send
kind of
it
thing you look
to Rio Grande Games for like the next publishing this, so they can have like a quote on the front from Pawel.
Doesn't smell
The
too
cup
bad.
doesn't smell too bad, and it looks pretty, and the cup doesn't smell too bad.
See, I'm the kind of guy that, like, if I did run a board gaming company, like, I would definitely put a quote like that in the front of your box. Right, okay, we're going to have to wrap that one up there. We have overrun quite heavily. Although, I have to say, this is the first time since we decided to limit our episodes to an hour that we've overrun, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good going.
It was
'Cause
going to
it's been
happen.
a good few episodes. It's been about a year now, in fact.
Yeah, I blame Pawel.
Yeah, we'll blame Pawel for all his Japan chat, even though we pushed them into it.
I've just come back and I'm already being blamed for stuff.
Right, if you are only listening to us for board game episodes, that's it for this year. We're not putting out another board game episode this year. We'll be back in January. If you are coming back to listen to video games, there'll be one more episode which will hopefully be out next week, as long as we can all find some time again over this busy period. And it's mostly me, I think, that's being the problem here. But yeah, if we can get some time to get together next week, we should hopefully get that episode out. But yes, the plan is to get one more video game episode out before Christmas, and then that's us done until January. So yeah, we will see you next year if you're not going to come and listen to us then. So we'll give out all our internet stuff before we go. So our email address is firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST player token, all one word. We are on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. Those are all the large and unnecessary first player token, or just first player token. It's all FIRST player token. The exception being Twitter, which is @1ST player token.
Once player token.
Thank you very much, Euan. We have a website. The less said about that, the better. We have a Discord if you want to come and join us there for some chat. It's discord.me/first player token. We also have a PSN community. I should have said that earlier. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris. I am still playing video games. I'm still trying to stream at least 2 or 3 times a week. So yes, they're usually weekday nights, but I do the occasional weekend thing. So that's, Unnecessary Chris if you want to find me on Twitch. And we are part of the Podnose Network.
UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Any news, Euan?
It's just...
Still chugging away?
Yeah, it's still going. I'm sure Christmas episodes will be all coming out. Just keep an eye out for that.
Everybody will be jingling some bells over their theme music and stuff.
Will be happening, yeah. So, no new podcasts
we don't do that.
as of this recording.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, we'll hopefully be back next week with a video games episode, but until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
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 Bye.